Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a warriors game at heart, yet it portrays the world and aesthetics of Breath of the Wild so well that it almost feels like a mainline Zelda game. Set 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, you'll see the beginning of Link's journey as a knight, witness the champions in their prime, and be part of the epic effort battling against the forces of Calamity Ganon. It's a blast to play, the story will keep you on the edge of your seat, and there's no shortage of things to do beyond the main quest. While I absolutely recommend it to anyone impatiently waiting for the sequel to Breath of the Wild, to call it simply a game to tide you over doesn't do it justice. Like Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity is a journey of adventure and discovery that draws you deeply into the experience. The rest of this review will go into a bit more detail about various aspects of the game, but we've kept it spoiler-free, so don't worry unless you want to go into the game completely blind. Age of Calamity is better than Hyrule Warriors, and it's a really solid Musou game full stop. If you're a Hyrule Warriors newbie, don't worry because no prior experience is required. The game teaches you how to play as you go along. It also pops up tips during gameplay, allows you to refer to characters' moves at any time, and there's also a practice arena. Age of Calamity presents a more complex and refined set of controls than Hyrule Warriors. The basic concepts are still there: regular and strong attacks, combos, enemy weak point gauges, and special attacks, but Age of Calamity adds in Breath of the Wild's runes, a unique action for each character, and items you can use. The defensive maneuvers, shielding and dodging, have also been given Breath of the Wild buffs, allowing you to execute parries and flurry rushes. For those who may have played Breath of the Wild but not a Warriors or other Musou title, you'll find that gameplay is fast and frantic, which contrasts the go-at-your-own-pace style of Breath of the Wild. You'll be faced with dozens of enemies at a time, but you'll mostly make easy work of them as you power through with combos of regular and strong attacks. Given that Age of Calamity is all about battling Ganon's forces, the Warriors style of gameplay works really well. At times, there can be an awful lot happening on screen to keep track of, but you can always pause to look at the map and mission objectives. I did find that crowded spaces, intermixed with large enemies and heavy special effects, such as those from a special attack, would cause the frame rate to drop significantly, especially in two-player mode. Most of the time this didn't bother me too much, but it occasionally caused frustration if I took a hit and lost track of where my character was. While Age of Calamity is a fast-paced game by nature, you will be rewarded by taking some time out to explore. Fitting for a game inspired by Breath of the Wild. I particularly encourage you to look at the map and visit the random niches, alcoves and dead ends you see, as there are secrets like treasure chests and Koroks to be discovered. You'll be able to play as a range of characters, such as Link, Zelda and the 4 champions, and each has a distinct set of moves. I was really impressed at just how uniquely each character played. None of them felt like clones of another character. Some missions require you to play as a specific character, but the rest of the time you'll be given a choice. I found myself gravitating towards certain characters that suited how I preferred to play. In addition to choosing from a range of characters, some missions require you to take control of divine beasts, 4 humongous, ancient mechanical weapons built to resemble animals. If Musou games normally make you feel like a badass, pulling off combos and special attacks, controlling the divine beasts will make you feel like a mega badass as you obliterate thousands of enemies at a time. Each divine beast has roughly the same basic controls, including a blaster, strong attack, special attack and shield, but they're all a little different. Var Meadow, for example, is airborne and has 2 different viewpoints to shoot from at different angles, while Var Naboris can dash and trample over enemies and structures. The world map functions as the game's main menu when it comes to seeking out things to do. Everything that is available to do is marked on the map, and over time it will become more filled out as you progress through the game and unlock more tasks and missions. If scrolling around the map isn't your thing, or you find the sheer number of things to look at overwhelming, you can use the L and R buttons to view each category of things to do. The types of tasks contained in Age of Calamity are chapters, challenges, services, and quests. The chapters will take you through the main storyline. Challenges are optional side quests such as training, escorting a character, racing against the clock, or trials where a single hit will kill you. Services include things such as the military training camp, where you can level up characters, shops, a practice arena, and the blacksmith, where you can level up or sell off your weapons. Finally, quests are basically errands. When you have a required number of items, you can turn them in to unlock bonuses such as recipes and new combos for characters. The game has a handy tracking system inspired by the Sheikah sensor for figuring out where to obtain specific items for the quests. The challenges, services, and quests are all optional, but they're worth investing in because they'll ultimately make your characters stronger. Otherwise, you might find your party is under-leveled for the next mission in the main story, most of which tend to be leveled significantly higher than where the previous story mission leaves off. Many of the areas you'll play through are taken directly from, or heavily inspired by, locations in Breath of the Wild. As the game occurs 100 years in the past, you'll be able to see parts of the world before they were ruined by the Great Calamity, which adds to the game's magic when you recognise a location. Overall, I found that the game environments were a lot more complex and larger than those in Hyrule Warriors. Unlike Breath of the Wild, where you can simply climb over everything to get where you want to go, Age of Calamity sometimes forces you to take specific paths to reach certain areas. Pressing the left stick will zoom in the on-screen minimap, and I made use of this often to help navigate my way around because sometimes the zoomed out map makes it hard to see dead ends or narrow connections between rooms. If Breath of the Wild was about piecing together what happened in the past, Age of Calamity is about filling in the gaps. For someone like me, who found Breath of the Wild a little light on story, it was a real treat to play a game set during this time period, and Age of Calamity's story packs a punch. It starts at the beginning of Link's journey. A promising young soldier in the ranks of Hyrule's army, he takes part in a battle against Calamity Ganon's monsters, where his outstanding performance sees him assigned to the role of Princess Zelda's personal knight. The Kingdom of Hyrule is trying to do all they can to hold off the impending return of Calamity Ganon. King Rome and Princess Zelda know that Sheikah technology will play a big role in Hyrule's defences, particularly the divine beasts. So Zelda, Link, and Royal Advisor Impa set out to recruit pilots for each divine beast. At the same time, Hyrule's armies are fending off multiple attacks from Ganon's hordes. There are familiar moments from Breath of the Wild that you'll expect to see. However, don't expect Age of Calamity to follow some sort of set script. There are plenty of surprises that will subvert your expectations. In fact, the surprises start as early as 5 minutes into the game, leaving you constantly wondering where the story will go next. I won't go into further detail about this because much of the fun of the game is discovering it as you go along. I will say that it's a good story which kept me guessing. It balances serious subject matter with light-hearted moments and humour. There are a couple of moments that might leave you scratching your head, but overall it's satisfying. In Age of Calamity, Link and Zelda would be lost without their allies, and having an ally in real life helps too. There's a local 2-player mode that's just as much fun as playing solo. In 2-player mode, the screen will be split horizontally during missions. This does sometimes limit your vertical view, particularly in stages with slopes, or while fighting some of the more epic boss battles. I mentioned earlier that Age of Calamity is prone to suffering frame rate drops when a lot is happening on screen, and this becomes far more noticeable with 2 players. However, A second player makes the game easier. You can split up and clear areas a lot faster, and then team up to take down harder enemies and bosses. Playing on normal difficulty, we didn't die or fail missions as often as we did in single player mode, so you might want to consider increasing the difficulty if you find you're breezing through everything. You'll have to take turns with the Divine Beast battles though, as these are single player only. One of the things I love most about Age of Calamity is how self-aware the game is. The writers have clearly had a lot of fun working in details and references to Breath of the Wild that give it an extra layer of depth and humour. And while I may have laughed out loud at times, Age of Calamity played on a spectrum of emotions. Nostalgia from Breath of the Wild was intermingled with serious feels as the characters, and Hyrule, deal with the mounting pressure of Calamity Ganon's impending return. At other times, I felt like an absolute beast as I took out scores of enemies with powerful moves. And, in typical Musou style, a few moments were so ridiculously over the top that they left me shaking my head. If you've been longing to return to the world of Breath of the Wild, or Hyrule Warriors was your jam, I highly recommend that you give Age of Calamity a try. It blends the two games perfectly, making the experience an absolute delight. It's a solid 9 out of 10. Also, the soundtrack rocks. I hope Nintendo releases an album.